The one thing that I enjoy about, listening to you telling stories is I mentioned earlier is the consistency in terms of your messaging, but also I like how you connect the dots in terms of the whole stakeholder value chain. You spoke now about clients, but you also connected that to the important role that we need to play as an organization to impact communities, right? And then in that article again, I think they were asking you about the Gen X and the millennials in terms of how we're responding as an organization. But I really liked your response because you actually connected the millennials to the next clients, looking at it from a customer. And I guess that's the customer obsession that you talk about. So each and every colleague, when you think about your role, you have to actually connect it to the end game is really being customer focused.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to win. It doesn't matter what generation you belong to. If there's something more powerful than rallying people around, it is winning. And therefore, we need to make sure that we focus the organization on winning, on being out there originating clients, and provide the data points that give them a sense of how well are we doing relative to the market. It's not surprising that teams that win, whether it's in football or rugby, they have a lot of supporters cutting across a whole spectrum of generations because people want to win and that resonates with them and so on. I think we have to build that culture within Absa and make sure that everyone is focused on winning and so on. I also get surprised when people are paranoid when they think about how do they connect and make the work environment relative for different generations. I said, but we were also young at some point, and our parents thought we were absolutely crazy, because we're energetic, we're having all of these ideas and so on. So why are we surprised when we are now a bit older, when the younger generation is energetic, has new ideas, they put emphasis and priorities on something else and so on. It's just a cycle of life. They themselves will become older at some point and will have to contend with new generations that will be coming after them and so on. And that's just the nature of life. Our responsibility is to create an environment that accepts that the organization must survive through different generations and must be relevant to all of those generations and make sure that the environment is exciting and ultimately that we do not lose sight of the fact that we ought to win out there.
And it doesn't matter how old you are, we all have a role to play in the winning.
Absolutely.
So let me just double click on the winning team. You also speak about that a lot, and I'm sure with yourself having worked for a number of organizations and having built teams, that it can be difficult to really build the best team if you don't have all the necessary resources, whether it be the organizational culture or be the opportunities that exist in that organization and so forth. Having been in the organization for a couple of weeks, and I want you to really just talk to us about the depth of the bench strength that exists in the organization in order for us to win. How comfortable are you, and what do you think needs to be done in order for us to actually get there?
I think there's no organization that has everything that it needs. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. We always strive for nirvana. I have the best people everywhere. Those people should be operating optimally all the time. I have the best capital to deploy into automation, digitization, and all sorts of other things. But the reality is that there will always be constraints. Our challenge is on leaders to make sure that we remove the constraints that are within our control and make life easy for our own employees. And secondly, that we're able to optimize what we have. Accepting that there will always be constraints, we'll never have enough of all the things that we need. But it's how do we utilize the limited resources in areas that will make the most impact, as opposed to trying to do everything for everyone. It's just physically impossible. We'll never be able to do that. But I think we should also strive to continuously improve either improve ourselves individually or always use every opportunity that we get when we appoint someone new to make sure that that person helps us to lift the bar. And that's not a judgment of people who are within the organization.
Yeah.
It is more an acceptance that we can always get better. And every opportunity that we get to improve ourselves, it is an opportunity that we should embrace and make full use of it. So we will be doing that as and when we get opportunity to bring people into the organization. We'd also look at opportunities for growing our own people and make sure that we challenge them, we stretch them, and we expose them to environments that will broaden their skill set. It has to be sort of a dual approach where you seek to grow and develop as much as you can internally, whilst at the same time injecting people who help us to lift the bar and who bring experiences that we do not have. A diverse environment that brings different experiences, people from different backgrounds, people who look at issues differently, people from different generations, is an environment that's likely to create a winning culture and a winning team. If we all think alike, know exactly the same thing, behave in exactly the same way, then we are guaranteed to lose and we're guaranteed to disappear over a period of time.
Absolutely. And I think as Absa, we are well positioned given the diverse, markets that we operate within, as well as the diverse people that sit within each market. We are an organization. I think our average age organizational is 35. Which tells you that we actually cut across all the multi-generations. So that in itself gives you the diversity, but also coming from the different backgrounds in terms of the markets that we're in, it gives you that richness that we are looking for.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, this organization operates in different markets, offers different products, covers different segments of the populations in the markets within which we operate. So there's enough diversity for us to leverage and ultimately make sure that we wield that into something that is far more formidable, that will help us outcompete competitors out there and ultimately take this organization to the next level. And I think we are capable of doing that, but we have to believe it. And we have to strive for it and be motivated by the potential that this organization offers.
And I think what is also important is, as we are building that winning team, the teams that want to join organizations, they also want to join organizations that can actually look up to the quality of the leadership that exists in that organization. I want to just unpack, there's a concept that you also use every now and again when you engage your stakeholders, which is about clarity of thought. And that is a very important piece, I think, when it comes to really making sure that you've got a leadership that is, clear in terms of the direction of travel and what needs to be done and how to show up. Let's unpack a little bit on that. You talk about this clarity of thought, the importance of having that as a first before we can even think of other things.
I think there are always so many things that we can do, and all of them, if you analyze the individual reasons as to why we are focusing on them, they are justifiable. They can stand, the argument in their own individual rights and so on. But whether the things we want to do, let's say thing number 1 or thing number 2 or 3 or 4, is as important as thing number 10 is a different story altogether. So clarity of thought is about being able to identify things that really matter, being able to distinguish the significant few from the trivial many. We all get lost in doing so many things, and we're able to justify those things on their own individual merits, and that's perfectly understandable. But leading a business is about making choices, and those choices must be made on the basis of what gives me the most impact. What is the most valuable thing, given that I will never have enough resources to do all the things that I want to do? And how do I prioritize and align people to things that really make an impact and so on? But that prioritization also means we should be able to then align the organization on those sorts of things that matter. If we're not clear about that, then we end up in processes that will yield 101 priorities, in processes where the loudest voice wins the day, as opposed to the most productive and the most impactful initiatives being the one that wins the day, and so on. And we have to rewire the organization to focus on outcomes and impact, and make sure that our decisioning is based on that, as opposed to the loudest voice being the one that wins the day. But leaders must be clear about what matters and must be able to articulate that to the rest of the organization.
And I think that takes away then the challenge that many organizations have around leaders and teams working in silos. Because if you are clear in terms of direction, then we're all kind of rallying around towards that.
Exactly. I mean, it's an organization that employs tens of thousands of people. Will always have business units, functions, departments, and so on. Otherwise, we can't run this organization as just an amorphous mob. We have to be structured in a particular way. And in a structure, there's an inherent risk of having rigid silos. Even if you change the boundaries, you'll always have a structure. And I think we just have to accept that. And you do want people to perform within their business units and within their functions. But you also want them to understand that their individual performance alone is not going to really shift client experience. They are dependent on coordination and cooperation with other parts of the bank to be able to impact positively on clients and ultimately move the performance of the organization from a financial growth point of view and ultimately from a returns point of view. But it requires then a bit of maturity and an appreciation of teamwork. We have to be good in our individual roles, but those roles alone are not enough to win the match. For us to be able to win the match, we must be able to play as a team. And so think about any team sport. Whether it's rugby, or whether it's football, or whether it's basketball or cricket. If you don't have good players, you are already on the back foot. But if you have good players who are playing as individuals, then you don't have a good team. And you are already on the back foot. So you need both. Exceptional players who are committed to work hard, but we also recognize that they are part of a team and we understand their role within the team. It is exactly the same in an organization like Absa. We want people to be passionate about their jobs, to be good at it, but also to understand that they are part of their team and to understand their role in ensuring that the team overall wins.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. And I hope that colleagues can actually get this, because it says that each and every person in this organization, if you have the client, I always say at the back of your mind, at the forefront, right? You already know how your role, how your job every day that you show up and everything that you do, how that then ties back into that customer experience.
Absolutely. We all contribute, whether directly or indirectly. Whatever we do, ultimately will have a positive or a negative impact on the client. And if we keep that at the back of our mind, what impact am I having on the client? Am I moving the dial? Or am I effectively retarding the organization from winning out there? I think if everyone understands just that, ultimately you would find that collaboration and coordination become much more easier because people are looking for the right outcome.
To be honest, I cannot wait to get to that stage. But something has to give, right? I think it's gonna require a lot of heavy lifting from all of us in order for us to get to that space, because it's quite energizing. We all want to be part of a winning team. And I'm sure all of us, when we joined this organization, we saw something great, something special. We saw it as an opportunity for us to win. And I honestly cannot wait for us to get there.
I think we're on our way there. I honestly believe that. The more I engage with people throughout the organization, visit branches, different centers, countries, and so on, the more I am sort of convinced that we have what it takes to win. But we have to tweak certain things. We have to make sure that we shift from being internally focused into being client focused. We have to make sure that we move away from being process driven
Yeah.
into being outcome driven. And thirdly, we have to make sure that we are sort of intolerant of mediocrity and poor performance, that the organization shift into a culture of winning and growth and so on. And it is the responsibility of every single individual within this organization to ensure that that shift happens.
I like what you said. The last part for me is very important, and I'm sure it resonates with every, A player out there. The ability to deal with poor performance and actually calling things out is one of the most difficult things that I find organizations, find to do. And if we can get to that point where we are able to actually, call things out and deal with that mediocrity that you talk about, I think we will actually get there.
Yeah, we're human after all. Some of these things, they happen because we're human. It's not easy to tell someone that, look, man, I think you should be pulling up your socks and what have you. So that alone is not a problem. But it is the ability, despite being human, to do the right thing, which is really to look objectively at how do we take our performance to the next level. And of course, because we're human, we can still do that in a manner that is respectful, that is human, that makes sure that we treat our employees with dignity and so on. So there is no contradiction between being tough on poor performance and whilst at the same time ensuring that people are treated fairly with the necessary dignity, and we help them to grow and develop.
Absolutely. So Kenny, we're going to the market next week, Friday, and I think we're all looking forward to actually, see how we have showed up in the first half. Going forward, in terms of H2, what is the message that you want to tell our colleagues in terms of getting us to the finish line?
Well, we can't talk about the numbers now until, because we're in the closed period, until we've released them to the market. But I think that the momentum that has been built in the first half of the year, is a positive one. Let us continue with that positive momentum. But let us also look out for things that could trip us. Firstly, the quality of the assets that we originate and how we manage our risk must be top class. Because at the end of the day, we don't want people to pedal so hard just when we think we've done well, only to be undermined by poor management of risk or by poor quality origination and so on. So we have to look out for that. I think secondly, we have to make sure that the energy that has been sort of demonstrated in the first half of the year by all the businesses continues, and that where there are shortcomings and gaps amongst pockets of our businesses that are lagging behind, that people really spend time identifying the client opportunity and make sure that we realign our energies to chase the client opportunity and reduce the time it takes between us identifying the opportunity and being able to convert that into bankable business and so on. It is never too late to originate business. Even on the sort of 28th day of December, if there's an opportunity, let us convert that business. Because remember, we are also creating a platform for 2026. You can't start in 2026 to make money for that particular year. What we will earn in 2026 will be dependent on the amount of work that will have been done in the preceding months and years.
Thank you so much, Kenny, for the conversation. That was so insightful. Lots of nuggets for me to take away and reflect on. But I think what is important is really the exciting journey ahead. And definitely want to be part of that. And we will be here to really be excited about the finishing line on the 31st of December. But really just as a parting shot, any other remarks that you would like to leave with the colleagues as we think about closing H1?
I think we have a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to really take this organization to the next level. But it starts with the baby steps. The things that we do on a day-to-day basis, the wins that we achieve on a monthly basis, as well as the numbers that we're able to deliver on a yearly basis. So we've done well in the first half of the year, and let us make sure that we bank that. But the second half is still early. we need to continue to win, continue to originate deals, continue to drive efficiency within the organization. Before we know it, Absa would have reclaimed its premium banking position within the African continent and would be the envy of the market. That is within our grasp, but it requires all of us to make sure that every single step that we take contributes towards us reclaiming our rightful position.
I love the analogy of playing as one team and being in the Premier League and one day being number one.
Absolutely.
In the log.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for the conversation, Kenny. I really, really appreciate your time. It was a great, great discussion. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Red Cup service.